right, it's 8:30 a.m. Good morning. My name is Jeff Anderson. I'm Vice President of the Board, and I will call this meeting back to order. Today is October 16th, 2025. Some preliminary notices. The board does issue continuing education credits. If you are interested in obtaining CE, please sign in on the back sign-in sheet. We do offer it for the morning session and the afternoon session. If we go into an afternoon session, you will need to sign in again to get credit for the afternoon session. Dr. Gandhi, can you do roll call, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Mr. Braswell. Mr. Thorwald.
Here.
Ms. Browning. Ms. Davis.
Present, no conflicts.
Thank you. Ms. Walmsley. Ms. Park.
Present, conflicts submitted in writing.
Mr. Hogan.
Here, no conflict.
Mr. Al-Nassif.
Here, no conflicts for today.
Mr. Anderson.
Here, no conflicts for today.
We have a quorum with 3 absents, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. Okay, board, we will move to tab number 22, and we will do 22A. This is the time set for consideration of the respondent settlement proposal in case number 23-0081 involving Mustafa Qadari. Are the parties present?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning. This is Christopher Rapp, counsel. Mustafa Qadari is present. We're on Teams. I'm sorry. I think it says Rebecca Flores up there, my paralegal. So apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Rapp. Thank you, Ms. Galvin. The board will now hear presentations and arguments from the parties on respondent settlement proposal. As the party making the proposal, respondent shall go first. The state will then have an opportunity to respond. Respondent will then be given time for a brief rebuttal. The order of the presentation shall be the respondent's presentation and argument, the state's presentation and argument, and the respondent's rebuttal. So, Mr. Rapp, the floor is yours for your presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board. A couple things. First, Mr. Mustafa is here to answer any questions. What we would like to point out is there was a significant criminal issue. My client was convicted and he was subjected to not felony probation, a class 6 undesignated. He successfully completed probation and he was discharged and granted a set aside and a second chance. The criminal facts are extreme. We acknowledge that. There's no running away from that issue. After that, during the time of right away, during the suspension for the interim suspension agreement, my client began a comprehensive psychological and addiction treatment, of which he completed numerous programs and is currently on at NA going once a week. He also continued with his professional education and his continuing a desire to be a pharmacist. I do want to point out that as a pharmacist, Dr. Qadari was very, very diligent and worked very hard. However, the issues that occurred do jeopardize the public, and we understand that. And when he went and met with Dr. Lott at the community bridges, he presented all of the information, everything in regard to a number of criminal reports. One was a misdemeanor that was later dismissed, but the extensive facts regarding the felony case. He presented all of his treatment. He is willing to do every single item that is set forth in the community bridges recommendations. And those recommendations are stringent, but they should be stringent for the protection of the public. The professional monitoring, the recommendation not to consume any alcohol or mood altering drug, and the establishment of an addiction therapist to monitor him while he works. We understand the critical decision that the board has to make. We've presented this numerous times, and we understand that we can't run away from what occurred, but my client has been on a significant treatment journey, and that journey includes going through numerous programs that are set forth, and then also completing probation, paying full restitution to the victims. But that doesn't stop what happened. The only thing we can ask for is that you set up the most stringent guidelines to protect the public, but allow my client to renew his license and begin practicing pharmacy again. I understand the state's position. It is not unreasonable, or the AG's settlement proposal. However, my client is here to answer questions for the board and answer any issues regarding the treatment that he has been going through and the treatment that he is willing to do. So the recommendations set forth by Dr. Lott on page 6 and 7 of the Community Bridges report are the most important items, and we agree to every single one of them. Is there anything that myself or my client could answer for the board at this time?
Mr. Harris, this is my first time running one of these informal settlement agreements. Is this appropriate for to entertain questions at this point in time, or is that? Could you please provide some guidance?
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's really your discretion. You may want to hear from the state first before, entertaining or entering into kind of the question answer phase, but it's entirely up to you. If you think it's appropriate at this point to ask questions, feel free to do so. Just remember to turn to the state before entering into deliberations.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Let's move forward with the state's presentation.
Good morning, members of the board. Jean Galvin. I would like to begin by underscoring a statement made by Respondents Council, and that is their understanding of the critical decision that the board has to make today, and that is not an understatement. The state could not agree more. Mr. Kadari's license as a pharmacist has been suspended since June of 2023 via a consent agreement. He applied for renewal in March of 2025, and the board considered that application in April. And after considering the evidence, the testimony, argument from counsel, the board voted to deny his application for renewal. The basis for that denial is set forth in the state's settlement conference memorandum on pages 2 and 3. I won't repeat the entirety of the grounds for denial, but rather will note the most egregious conduct. As his conduct is put into the public record, please remember, these are not allegations asserted by the state. This is not conduct that the state thinks the respondent may have committed, or conduct that the state is attributing to respondent, but rather this is conduct to which he has admitted. And this conduct included an encounter with the police in February of 2025, in which he was observed in a Circle K parking lot with a lighter in his hand, a blue straw in his mouth. He was in possession of a portion of a pill and numerous items of drug paraphernalia. He admitted to the police officers that he was smoking Oxy and M30 fentanyl pills. Then we have the February 2023 incident in which he concocted a burglary of his own pharmacy, in which his own girlfriend pulled a knife on him, and he opened the narcotics safe, and she walked away with over 1,500 units of controlled substances. This entire event was a sham, as he described it, and for this offense, he was sentenced to 2 years probation, having been convicted of solicitation to commit theft and control property. In public testimony before the board, he has admitted to, at all relevant times, to his addiction to opioids, specifically oxycodone, using as much as 75 milligrams per day. He also admitted to diverting controlled substances from the pharmacy where he worked, and that wasn't just through the staged robbery. He appears before you today requesting that you claw back your denial of his renewal application and grant his renewal with terms of probation that include monitoring. Should the board grant his request, it would be a complete abdication of your responsibility to protect the public. Before you is a licensed pharmacist who has betrayed the public trust in an unprecedented degree. I ask you to pause for a moment and reflect on the facts of this case, facts to which he has admitted. The licensed pharmacist planned, participated in, perpetuated, and profited from a performative burglary of the pharmacy where he was employed. The whole thing he described as a sham for the purpose of stealing a large quantity of controlled substances. If that admission is not enough, please recall that respondent admitted to diverting oxy from the pharmacy in addition to the staged robbery. He admitted that in an effort to cover his tracks for that diversion, he purchased oxy off the street and used it to replenish the pharmacy stock. He said he knew who he was buying from, so he was sure that it was a quality product. This is almost impossible to comprehend, that an educated, licensed professional pharmacist would engage in this type of conduct. A person who engages in this unlawful, deceitful, and desperate behavior is not deserving of the privilege to hold a license issued by this board. Your mission is to protect the public from individuals who have engaged in unprofessional conduct. The respondent is the complete and total antithesis of the type of person deserving of a license. The state requests you to reject the respondent's offer of settlement and uphold the denial of his application for renewal, or alternatively accept a consent agreement for the voluntary surrender of his license. I would also like you to take note in his opening statement, respondent recognizes that his conduct does jeopardize the public. He acknowledged that just moments ago, that his conduct does jeopardize the public and the public's trust. I would ask you to take into account that description of his previous conduct, and also recall that this is a very critical decision. If this is one person that should be removed from the practice of pharmacy, it is respondent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Galvin. Mr. Rapp, you have an opportunity for a rebuttal.
Yes, Judge, I want to point out some things that we can't disagree with the facts of the criminal case. In fact, sitting next to me is Rhonda Neff, who was the attorney for the criminal case. And part of this, right when this case occurred, in fact, the initial case I represented Dr. Kadari at the level of the city court in Chandler in the initial case. But during the criminal case, the prosecutors, who are by no means soft in this area and in regard to these facts, we had a settlement conference and they asked to speak directly to Dr. Kadari. I know a lot of you aren't from the criminal area, but you have to understand that's fairly unusual and not something that we normally would do. But Dr. Kadari stood up and answered the questions for the prosecutors about what he had done and what his treatment was going forward, and how he had committed to the treatment, and how he understood that the addiction that caused these events and the terrible event that was charged for the felony were a product of severe addiction to oxycodone. And in that, he has gone forward, gone through programs, stayed in programs, and has been tested all through the probation period during the criminal case. And to get a given those facts, you heard the sort of hyperbolic test statements from Ms. Galvin, but they are essentially could be correct in regard to how bad this was. But the prosecutor's office listened to all of this and they gave him a Class 6 undesignated, not because they couldn't go to trial, not because they didn't have the evidence, but because they had to look at his treatment and his addiction. And that's what we're asking. Is this a critical decision? It's a critical decision about a young man's life who spent his dream was to help the public as a pharmacist. He knows the betrayal that occurred. But what we're asking is in the community bridges is they set up not just guidelines, not just guardrails. These are stringent requirements that allow him to practice, but to keep his from the triggers of his addiction. So as you look at this, yes, that occurred. The criminal case is over. He has been discharged from probation. The charge has been set aside, but that doesn't end the critical decision that you make. So in this, they can go back to the facts, but the journey that he is to sit here today, and I ask you to ask him questions, because Dr. Kodari needs to explain where he is today and why these very significant, stringent guardrails are the things that protect the public and allow him to continue his practice as a pharmacist. It's easy to say no after this. It's not easy to go through these restrictions that he has and be able to practice. But he understands now the addiction that he was under, and the decisions that he made were based on that addiction. I do ask the board members to ask Dr. Kodari questions and assist in allowing him to practice, to renew his license, and to begin practicing under very stringent, almost probationary terms. So I asked the board to follow through with their requirement, their mission, which is to protect the public, but to also assist somebody who would like the opportunity to serve the public once again. I understand what happened. We're not running away from it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Rapp. Having reviewed the information submitted by the parties and heard the presentation and argument of the parties, the board will now deliberate. There will be no further comment from the parties while the board deliberates. But pursuant to what Mr. Harris said, we are eligible to make questions if so desired.
I have some comments.
Sure, certainly.
So I attended the last board meeting where we addressed this issue, and frankly, in all the material that I've read and heard today, I don't really see anything different. We had an opportunity to question Dr. Kodari at that time, and we did question him quite extensively, and I really don't see anything new here. I have a question for Ms. Galvin. Is there an opportunity for Dr. Kodari if this board chose to not allow his renewal, is there an opportunity for him at some future date to reapply for his license? And what time frame would that be typically?
I don't know if this is more appropriate for Mr. Harris, but I will give you the state's perspective. The board did issue a notice of denial. They have appealed that denial and then requested this informal settlement conference. If the board rejects their offer of settlement, the notice of denial is in play and we will go to formal hearing. That may be before you, that may be before the Office of Administrative Hearings. And then that decision that is made, whatever that decision is, will become the final order from which they could appeal. if the final order is upholding the denial, there is a statutory prohibition against applying anew that is for 2 years.
Thank you. I also concur with the other commissioner.
Any other comments, or is there a motion on the respondent settlement proposal?
I move that we deny.
Second.
So do you move that we reject the respondent settlement proposal and the matter will be proceed to formal hearing?
Yes, that is my motion.
That is my second.
All right, any further discussion? All right, Dr. Gandhi, roll call, please.
Mr. Thorwald,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Walmsley, absent. Ms. Park,
Aye.
Mr. Hogan,
Aye.
Earl Nassif.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Braswell, Ms. Browning. Ayes have it, Mr. Chair, with 3 absents.
Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. Thank you, Mr. Rapp, and good luck in your recovery, Mr. Kadari.
And if I may, board, for clarification, and to put it on the record, if the opportunity presents itself, would the board be agreeable to accepting a consent agreement for the imposition of denial of the rule application?
That sounds good. Any comments, board?
Do we need a motion here? Yeah.
We need a motion for that?
I think if there's a consensus that it would be accepted, that's appropriate.
Okay, very good.
Mr. Vice President, members of the board, just to clarify, would that be a consent agreement for the voluntary surrender of his license or something else?
We have the issue of his renewal application before the board. So I think the consent agreement would have to deal with that application as well as the current status of his license, which is suspended.
Thank you.
I move that if offered, we accept the consent agreement or a limit, deny, I didn't word that right, sorry. I move that we, sorry, okay. What's the best way to make that motion? I move that we, if offered, we would accept his turning in his license.
Yeah, Mr. Vice President, members of the board, if I may help with the input of perhaps the state, if the board is going to consider a, kind of a preemptive motion, perhaps it would just be that the board would consider accepting a consent agreement that contemplates the denial of Dr. Kadari's pharmacy license.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
That would be my motion.
That would be my second.
All right, so we've got a first and a second. Any further discussion? Do we need a roll call?
Just to be on the safe side,
Sure.
Chair. Mr. Thorwald,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Park,
Aye.
Mr. Hogan,
Aye.
Earl Nassif.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Braswell, Ms. Browning, and Ms. Walmsley. Ayes have it, Mr. Chair, with 3 absents.
Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. That concludes this matter, and we will move on to tab number 9D.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And 9D is complaint number 25-0365. Respondent is Ali Al-Tai. Are the parties present? Do we need to come back to this? Thank you. Yes, Mr. Boson, we called your case. So this is complaint number 25-0365. Our respondent is Ali Altay. Would the parties please come forward? Would you please introduce yourself, unmute yourself first and introduce yourself for the board, please?
My name is Ali Altai. I'm a pharmacy technician.
Okay, I'll share it. Let's move it to the middle.
My name's Mark Bosen. I'm counsel for Mr. Altai.
Thank you, Mr. Boson. And Ms. Brown, welcome. And would you like to share a summary?
Good morning, board members. Thank you. Jenica Brown, Executive Assistant to the Deputy Director. Ali Altai was issued an Arizona Pharmacy Technician license on October 28th, 2022. His license expires on October 31st, 2025. It is currently open. Board staff received a notification indicating that Mr. Altai was terminated from employment at Sam's Club Pharmacy on or about June 27th, 2025 for theft of non-controlled prescription drugs. Documentation provided by Sam's Club indicated that video footage was reviewed on June 20th, 2025, and unusual behavior of Mr. Altai was observed, including opening bottles, examining prescription drugs, smelling prescription drugs, capturing photos on his cell phone of computer screens within the pharmacy, capturing photos on his cell phone of a camera systems inside the pharmacy, attempting to conceal a prescription pad, and diverting valacyclovir. It was further noted that Mr. Altai admitted to diverting valacyclovir and dutasteride during an interview with Sam's Club. A systems count was conducted by the pharmacy and revealed the following inventory shortages on the prescription drugs that Mr. Altai admitted to diverting. Finasteride had an inventory shortage of 20 1-milligram tablets. Finasteride had an inventory shortage of 95 milligram tablets. And valacyclovir had an inventory shortage of 31 1-milligram tablets. After receiving an extension to respond to the complaint, counsel for Mr. Altai submitted a response on September 2nd, 2025, indicating that Mr. Altai unintentionally placed medication in his pocket and went home from work not realizing the medication remained in his pocket. It was further indicated that Mr. Altai has a habit of placing items in his pocket. It was asserted that his action was not a deliberate theft, but rather an oversight. Staff requested additional information related to the disposition of the medications and a response to the additional allegations regarding the unusual behavior outlined in Sam's Club's investigative notes. A supplemental response indicated that Mr. Altai is still in possession of the medication as his former employer refused to allow him to return it. A photo of the medications in their original sealed containers was included in the response. With respect to the unusual behaviors, Mr. Altai's counsel indicated that he is in a pharmacy program and is eager to learn more about the products he works with. It was further stated during his time in the pharmacy, he enthusiastically collected sights and smells within the pharmacy space. The conduct described here is related to his excited curiosity and not an attempt to conceal any behavior. This matter is before the board for discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the facts of this complaint.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Mr. Boson, would you like to make a statement?
I would. Thank you very much. I met Mr. Altai as a result of this complaint. And I'll admit, as a pharmacist and an attorney, the facts seemed unusual when they were presented to us. And I spent a considerable amount of time with Mr. Altai to try to understand what was going on. And Mr. Altai's history is a fairly long history for a technician. He's been practicing for several years, and those practices have included both community retail and hospital. When I asked him about the inadvertent removal of the medications from the pharmacy, I was a little incredulous, as you likely are as well. And it was his explanation that became a habit of his when he worked in the hospital environment. And before I go further, for purposes of disclosing any potential conflicts you might not be aware of, I'm going to talk about entities: Sam's Club, which is the complainant, Banner, which is an organization he used to work for, and then his current employer is CVS. And so I'll disclose those in case this board needs to address any of those.
So I do work for Banner Health, but I do not know Mr. Altai.
Okay, I have no objections to you proceeding. I just wanted to disclose that. And so at Banner, it was a habit of many of his coworkers to sometimes put things in their pocket as they transferred small amounts of drug from one area of the hospital to the other. And he admits that that was a bad habit. And part of his corrective action that we submitted was he's not going to wear clothing that would allow him to do that anymore, since that became a habit of him, things doing repetitive over time. Why were these medications in your pocket, particularly since they were sealed containers? There are 4 containers, as the state described. 2 finasterides. One was a 1 milligram 30 count bottle. The other one was a 5 milligram 30 count bottle. I'm sorry. Let me make sure I get these numbers right. The 1 milligram was a 90 count bottle. 5 milligram was 30 count bottle. There's a dutasteride 0.5 milligram 30 count bottle and a valcyclovir 30 count bottle. They're unit of use bottles. You should have photos in your board book. If you do not, I've brought photos. He placed those in his pockets and in an attempt to return them to stock, to the shelf, but he got busy at the pharmacy and they remained in his pocket. He was not feeling well that day. Part of our issue was, did we need to collect medical records to describe that in our initial interview? And if you'd like to, in an executive session, talk about his not feeling well that day and what happened subsequent to that day, we can talk about that. But I will briefly describe that he had a headache, wasn't feeling very well, did not take anything for that headache, although he is usually on Lyrica. He has a condition that would require that, and it's prescribed appropriately for him. But he did not take that day, and he did not have any of his own personal stock to take. So he went without his medication that day that would have helped his headache. And subsequent to that day, almost immediately at 2 a.m., experienced another condition that required him to be hospitalized for a couple of days. And so there was some question about, well, why didn't you immediately return these? Well, he was hospitalized for a couple of days after that. After he was released from the hospital, he went to an app that Sam's Club used to tell him about shifts. He noticed there were no shifts. He contacted his supervisor. His supervisor said, we'd like to meet you at the home pharmacy. He went to the home pharmacy. And at that point, they talked about the medication that was inadvertently removed. He described it. He admitted to it. He apologized, explained the same story that I'm describing to you, to the supervisors. They decided to terminate him. They were unwilling to take the medications back, presumably because they'd been out of the pharmacy's control and there was no reason for them to take them back. We advised him to hold on to the medications. They didn't destroy evidence. I came into this case very late. My associates were working on it. When I found out he still had the medications, I contacted board staff and said, what would you like us to do with these? Do you want us to bring these tomorrow when we come in? And the board staff said, well, we don't have a license to possess Legend medications either. And so we arranged for their destruction using a modified DEA 41 form. These are not controlled substances, but it's as good a form as any to use as a model. I signed off on he released those to us, to our firm, with the board's permission, board staff's permission. I signed off, and we have another pharmacist at the firm who signed off that they will be destroyed. They will be destroyed via a Sharps medication mailback program. And that's, we have information about that. And so those medications are no longer in his possession. We do have photos that show that even up until his time that he turned them in and the time that we're going to return them, they're still in sealed, tamper-resistant bottles. There's no evidence that he consumed them at all or needed them for any reason. He doesn't have any medical condition that would require any of these medications. And with that, he understands that there's a very black and white issue here. He was in possession of Legend medications without a prescription. They left the pharmacy. The inadvertent placing of them in the pocket and forgetting about them is not a very good excuse, but that is the reason. And he is here to answer any questions you may have for him.
Thank you, Mr. Boson. Board members, floor is open for questions, discussion.
Mr. Altai, I have a question for you. So when did you discover that you have those sealed vials after you end your shift that day? Did you discover it the same day, next day?
I discovered it upon my arrival when they had asked to see me. Because they informed me about it. And when Sam's Club wanted to ask me about what medications may or may not have been, that's when I recalled and I answered their questions.
Okay, so you got those vials or medications, they left the pharmacy and they were in your pocket, right?
Yes, they were in my pocket.
But you didn't notice that till they reached out to you and informed you?
Yes, because I was hospitalized. So there's no way for me to know that I had them until they had informed me.
Thank you.
So did you take, or did you put all 4 bottles at the same time, or were these 4 different times that that medication you placed in your pocket and took it out of the pharmacy?
I believe there were different times, yes.
Okay. So 4 separate times, or?
Yes, because they were returned to stock.
I think her question is 4 separate times that you removed them from the pharmacy, or did this all happen on one day?
Oh,
Correct, yeah.
yes, they happened in one day.
And so your reason for putting them in your pocket was what?
Because they were returned to stock. The medications were put back on hold, and I was going to put them back on hold, but it was a busy day. So I put them back in my pocket so that I could, while I'm finishing other tasks, I went ahead and put them back. But like I said, it was unknowing. I didn't mean to do this, and I'm sorry.
So what type of you described a pharmacy program. What type of pharmacy program?
Yes, so it's a PharmD program. I'm trying to become a pharmacist, a nuclear one, and I'm pursuing that education as we speak.
So you're currently enrolled in pharmacy school?
I'm going to be, yes. I'm not currently enrolled, but I'm about to be.
So when you say they're returned to stock, was it medication that needed to go back on the shelf to be redispensed, or was it a prescription not picked up by a patient that had a prescription label on it?
It were medications that were originally going to be filled, but were put back on hold. Reasons being as per the patient's request, or patient wasn't willing to pay a certain amount. So medications were just put back on hold via the program.
So they were labeled with patient information, ready to be sold, and then put back.
No, the medications were on the fill station subsequently. Then
So you didn't complete the dispensing process with
no, it was never completed. No.
I have a follow-up to Dr. Sparks' question. I watched the videos,
Yes.
and if you've got 4 full bottles of drugs
Yes.
in your smock and your scrubs top, and you disrobe when you go home, I just don't see how you would not recognize that 4 bottles came out of your pockets from the scrub top when you disrobed that evening when you returned home. That just does not set well with me and your explanation. Can you explain how one could have 4 full bottles in their smock and their scrub top, disrobe when they go home, and not realize that they had 4 bottles there? And then, I mean, if you did recognize that you had them, it seemed like you would make some sort of intervention or not be blindsided that your employer then follows up with you that, they've discovered that you've diverted non-controlled substances. So tell me about the disrobing.
Yes. So, like Mr. Boson said, I wasn't able to return these medications nor know that I had them in possession because I collapsed and I was admitted into the hospital. So there's no way for me to accurately know or be in knowing that I had these. And when I appeared in front of my employer, like I said, Mr. Boson said, he informed them that I cooperated, informed them that medications that they may not have been aware of, and I tried to return these medications. I understand that to the board that this seems far-fetched, but I did make attempts to return these medications, and I was unable to return these medications because I was admitted. I'm sorry.
I would like to know how you didn't notice that you had 4 bottles in your pocket.
So the reason why I didn't notice that I had these bottles was because at my previous employment at Banner, we go up different levels, down different levels, and we go to and from returning, receiving medications, sometimes very large medications. So because of that fact, it became a force of habit, not a good one, and because of it, it became something that I didn't catch. And that was the reason. Again, I'm sorry. It was a mistake.
I'm having trouble understanding how you wouldn't notice 4 30 count bottles in your pocket as you leave. I'm not sure I'm satisfied with that.
Me either. And I liked your line of questioning about the return to stock. I haven't been in retail in many, many years, but what you described as a return to stock does not make sense to me. Like, you would not know that the patient refused the prescription during the filling phase. There'd be a prescription label on it if it was a return to stock bottle, right? Or that it would have been opened. But that didn't, I was not tracking how you describe that with a retail pharmacy workflow.
The way I understood what he explained it, it sounded like he didn't get to the point where he labeled it. It was not, they didn't proceed with the dispensing process. And it wasn't like it was ready for the patient to pick up and then went back on the shelf. So it did not have PHI on the bottle, correct? Is where I was going with that.
Yeah, I can help if it's helpful. I still have the photos of the 4 bottles that were there. There are no patient labels on them. And what he described to me, and we may be hung up on the term, return to stock to me feels like it was in will call, we're putting
Correct.
it back. In this case, there were a number of unit of use medications pulled from the shelf, sitting on the workbench, ready for fill. And for various reasons, these were never going to be filled. They asked him to return it to inventory.
Right. Yeah,
There you go.
that's my understanding.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
Board members, if I may, for the record, staff was not made aware of the medical incident that is being described today. When the response to the complaint was, when a request for a response was sent to Mr. Altai, council requested an extension for medical records. We never received medical records. I did follow up with council and confirmed that no records were received, and they stated that in your board book on page 1904, you can see their response that it was natural to assume that medical records could be needed to address any attempt at diversion. After speaking with Mr. Altai, we no longer believe that to be the case.
Also, just throwing it out there. I mean, this was not lisinopril or atenolol, cheap generics. These are, open or sealed drugs that have street value. I mean, finasteride, dutasteride, these are used for hair loss, and valcyclovir. So it's very, very suspicious that these high cost drugs were found unopened in your pocket versus a fast mover like hydrochlorothiazide or atenolol or lisinopril. So that's just very irregular to me.
So I have some questions and we don't need to get into any kind of protected health information, but you stated that you collapsed. So you went home from work, you still had your scrubs on, the vials were still in your pocket, and you collapsed, and then you went to the hospital. My question is, were you wearing the same clothing when you arrived at the hospital, and were the medications still in your pocket when you arrived at the hospital?
No, I was in a different piece of garment. They were not with me when I was at the hospital.
So did at some point you change your clothing before you went to the hospital and after you came back from work?
My family removed my clothing for me when they had found that I was collapsed. And that's why I didn't know of my possession of these medications.
Mr. Altai, could you elaborate on using your cell phone to take pictures? Could you
Yeah.
explain what's happened there?
Yes. So during that period, I was next to the pharmacist, and the pharmacist was teaching me how to log my miles, as this was not my home store. And that's why I was taking photos of, excuse me, taking photos of the screen. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And the only photo you took for the screen, how to log in your mileage.
Yes.
So I thought you took picture of drugs and you attempt to conceal prescription pads.
There wasn't an attempt to steal prescription pads. The reason why I took a prescription pad was to use it as scratch paper, which subsequently the pharmacist took that and gave me scratch paper instead.
Board members, if I may, according to the investigation from Sam's Club, they indicated that he was also using his cell phone to take pictures of camera systems inside the pharmacy.
Board members, discussions? Anybody considering a motion?
I'm not ready to make any motion, but do you have any comments about this camera and taking photos for camera system in your pharmacy?
You said comments?
Yeah, do you have any response to this?
Yes.
allegation?
I wasn't taking photo or video of camera systems for any for any ill intent purposes. I was only admiring that this was a very nice pharmacy, a very protected pharmacy, as I have worked in very uncomfortable areas in the community pharmacy areas. I was simply admiring that this pharmacy was very up to standard and very respectable. That was all.
What do you do with the photographs after you take them?
I don't disperse them anywhere. I had already removed that. Any thing sort of leading to the idea of dispensing or releasing that information. There's nothing like that going on.
So back to the pictures of the screen. When I viewed the video, I saw you basically alone in front of the screen, and you mentioned that your supervisor or somebody you worked with was guiding you on how to apply for your mileage. can you explain why that person wasn't there next to you explaining it while you were taking pictures of the screen? You just seemed to be taking pictures of the screen and you were there by yourself.
Yes, because at the previous day or the day before, I believe, I was working at a Chandler location who was also teaching me the same thing, and I just wanted to take photos of that so that should there be an error in reporting that mileage for my pay stub, that I have it with me.
This might be a question for Ms. Brown. In the investigative notes by Sam's Club, did they look at what was on the computer screens? Were they able to tell what was being the photo, what was being taken, what was on that computer screen?
That information was not included in the investigative notes.
Why were the hospital records not obtained?
We could get the hospital records for you, but they would be necessary to show that he was hospitalized for a couple of days. And if the board would like that, we could supply that to you after doing a medical records request. But they wouldn't explain why he accidentally took medications home. And so I didn't want to pile on. This is the reason why he took medications home, because the incident happened after he took the medications home.
But he's also using that as justification for why he didn't recognize why he had 4 bottles in his scrub top and didn't recognize when he was disrobing because he was unconscious and a family member took his clothes off for him. And also the family member didn't recognize that there were 4 bottles of unsealed or sealed prescription only drugs in your scrub top. So he's using that as an explanation for that. So it seems like you would want to submit that as evidence if that is a legitimate story.
You're absolutely right. And candidly, I didn't ask him the same line of questioning you did. And had I done that and had we gotten to here, then absolutely I would have said, gosh, let's get those. But I didn't prep. I didn't ask the same questions you did.
And Chris, just like to your point, when he's taking picture for the screen, there is a pharmacist next to him. Yeah, there is a pharmacist next to him. Oh, I mean, the one I have here, it has a pharmacist next to him.
I'm inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt, but before I would do that, I would want to see the medical reports to ensure that, in fact, what was the cause? Why was he sick? What caused him to pass out? That type of thing. To ensure that, in fact, yes, he was unable to notice this himself.
And just the other peculiar behavior too that hasn't been addressed yet, the sniffing. Tell me more about the sniffing.
Yes. So my mentors and people who I look up to when I want to become a pharmacist have always preached about 5 senses, being sight, smell, and of course, not in this case, taste, and other uh your 5 senses. So that being able to identify that a medication may look wrong, smell wrong, or appear wrong. And I was simply exercising those so that I may be able to better serve my community as a technician and in the future as a pharmacist.
I just like to give, I agree with Frank. I would like to give him benefit of doubt. I mean, the sniffing, I don't think this good practice, but I know like a lot of pharmacy staff, they say, oh, like Benicar smells vanilla. This medication smells like good, smells bad. To me, it's not good act to do that really close to your mouth or nose, but I believe that can happen in the pharmacy world, like people smell this medication to identify them. But I agree. I mean, I don't have a record to say like, yeah, he had like that he went through a medical condition that prohibited him or stopped him from reporting this files. I mean, I don't have anything to really judge that.
So looking at some of the videos, so going back to the return to stock bottles where you're putting the bottles back on the shelf because you didn't dispense it. In some of the video, it appears that you were walking into the drug bays to put them back, but it looks like you put it in your pocket instead of putting it back on the shelf. Do you recall, like, could you explain that?
I can't say I specifically recall, but medications were taken out to be if I was in the bay, medications were taken out to be filled, which is why I pulled them out.
This looked like you walked back into the bay.
May I
with
show,
this- yeah.
may I show Mr. Bozen that video real quick?
Certainly, please do.
Mr. Bozen, can you come up real quick?
Is there any way to share it on the screen?
Possibly, yeah. There's two videos I can show on the screen.
And my client's seen them too. He's the one that needs to provide the answer that you're looking for.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll show it on the screen.
All right, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on it. So you can see he's putting it in his pocket and standing there. That's one video. This is the other supportive video. If you look at the top middle one, he put it in his pocket. That's the same video, but then you don't see him reaching, grabbing anything.
Closer.
I can see it.
I'll restart that one.
You can walk up to the screen if you need to see it.
Let me see if I can blow it up here. I don't think I can make it any larger. Want me to go back to the first one, Mark?
Well, do you remember those times? Do they? Is that enough information for you to answer?
Yeah.
Okay, my client can answer.
Is he okay?
So. So, let me just, you want to repeat the question for him? So.
I think Ms. Spark.
Yeah, so looking at that, what, is that your normal practice to, do you have any explanation at all for walking the drugs back into where they should go, but then instead of putting them on the shelf, putting them in your pocket?
Okay. Yeah. So in the video, it doesn't show me putting the medication in my pocket, but if I were to recall that time, I went back with that shelf with that medication to clarify that I had pulled the right medication.
I'm not sure that's exactly what I saw.
I agree with you. So, Mr. Altai, you had mentioned that you were accepted to pharmacy school. Pharmacy schools generally start in the fall, so curious, what college did you get admitted to, and do you have an intern application with this board? Where are you with that?
Yes, so I'm currently just about to finish my prereqs at Glendale Community College, and I'm furthering my education at either Midwestern or University of Arizona. I do not have an intern license at this moment, which is why I said I'm almost done. I'm sorry for that lack of clarification.
Thank you. Any more questions?
I have a question of board members. If you wanted to know if you pulled the right drug, would you go back to the shelf or would you simply take the bottle out of your pocket and look at it to see if it was the right drug?
Agree. There's many inconsistencies in this story.
It's really hard sometimes to understand. There's a lot of movement inside the pharmacy. I mean, you cannot tell what you did to verify what. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not taking his side here or not, but just to be like fair to the situation, it's really like hard sometimes to. There is some habits. Each one has their own habits, how to verify, how they make sure this is the right medication. Some of them like go back to the shelf. Did I pick the right shelf, the wrong shelf? Some of them go look at it 3-4 times. Most of the pharmacy staff have OCD, you know what I mean? So they have their own way to make sure. Now I agree with you. There's a lot of unknown and really unexplained activities that he did, right? So that's why whatever he answers, it will not, to me, change the fact that okay, there is 4 bottles left the pharmacy. Now he tried to give it back to them, or like Mr. Boson tried, and they refused to take them. This is, to me, it's like I don't know why they refuse. They can destroy them their own, right? So, but this is a different story. But I don't think he will give us a good answer. Like, I mean, like all things happened within a few minutes, maybe, or like half an hour, right? In a long day work. Now, still we have facts here that we have 4 bottles left the pharmacy. Now the question, is it like diversion or it's happened just as mistake?
Yeah, I agree. I don't, I mean, when you think about intent, I don't know that we know really what was necessarily going on, and I don't know if we're going to know, but we know that 4 medications left the pharmacy.
Hey guys, this is Tennille online. Do you think if we requested those medical records, it would help corroborate his story if we brought him back for a conference?
For me, that would.
I don't know if we're just kicking the can because you had the opportunity to get the medical records and you didn't obtain them for us. You didn't feel like there was a need to get those medical records. If the consensus of the board wants to go that direction and take it to a conference, we can, or if there's an alternative motion.
Now, if there is a medical record, so what is the motion would be like? We don't know really, just as Dr. Anderson said, that we don't want to kick the can, say, you know what, let's deal with it later on. So just the question, is it diversion or not diversion? I mean, the staff should not take medications back home. That's period. Even like if it's a mistake, it's a mistake. That we deal with it as a mistake. Now, do we need to deal with it as a diversion? To me, I cannot prove it a diversion. He had it after a few days. He wanna give it back to them. I will look at it personally as staff took medication with them to the pharmacy. I cannot confirm 100% it was a diversion. They still have custody of those. He give it back to them, and they refuse to take them. And he provide pictures for those. They're still sealed. He did not consume any of those medications.
Does
But-
it not, I just
yeah.
don't mean to interrupt, but does it not resonate with you that these medications in their sealed format have high street value, Mr. Nassif?
It does have value. I don't know how much.
Correct. And that the circumstances around this are just 4 vials the same day in scrub top that, it's not very loose fitting scrub top, and not being able to identify that you've got 4 vials when you disrobe in your pocket. That just is very, very peculiar.
I
The
do.
circumstances,
Yeah, I mean,
the circumstances indicate to
It is,
me.
yeah, it is the amount of vials is questionable, like 4 of them, not 1 vial left it in a pocket, right? And that's why I asked him the first thing, when did you,
Correct.
discover this? Because I would call my supervisor, say, hey, I left the pharmacy with
Exactly.
4 vials.
That's what.
And then it won't be an issue, I'm sure. I can guarantee you, if you call them, there won't be an issue. So I see what you, so I'm just trying to think out loud, like, but I believe it is an issue here.
I agree with Mr. Aziz, but at the same time, I certainly have that concern, and that's bothered me the whole point. Those are large bottles. You should be able to know that. That's why I wanted to see the medical records, because the only excuse in my mind for not seeing them is because you collapse. If there's nothing that really shows that, then I lean the other way.
I mean, I think if there's more answers and we feel like understanding a little bit more around the circumstances might help, and the medical records would help. Not to want to necessarily kick the can down the road, but maybe it's appropriate to request that and move it to a conference.
Is that your motion?
That is my motion.
All right, do we have a second for a conference?
Second.
All in favor, please say
Aye.
aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion. 1 nay noted, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Boson. Thank you, Mr. Altay.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to tab 19, item number 19D. This is the matter of pharmacy technician license application. Mr. Robert Perez, board staff, Ms. Castro. Ms. Castro, would you like to introduce yourself and provide a brief summary?
Yes. Christina Castro, Licensing Administrator. Robert Lopez applied for a pharmacy technician license on May 12, 2025. Mr. Lopez was arrested in 2014 for taking the identity of another person. He was not required to disclose this information on his application. Documentation of the arrest was unavailable due to record retention period having lapsed. Court documentation indicates that on November 4, 2014, Mr. Lopez pled guilty to facilitation to take the identity of another and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. His probation terminated early on June 2nd, 2016. Mr. Lopez petitioned the court to seal the criminal case record, and the petition was granted on March 17, 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Castro. Board members, welcome. Oh, very good. Mr. Lopez, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Wonderful. Would you please introduce yourself for the board?
Yes, hi, my name is Robert Lopez. I'm a pharmacy technician in the state of Washington since 2018.
Okay, would you like to make a statement before we move into questions?
I would be happy to answer any clarifying questions. The main reason I didn't disclose in my initial application was because I had the records fully sealed. The attorney I worked with at the time informed me once the records are sealed and that is granted, that I would not need to disclose them to the Board of Pharmacy application, but I did disclose them when I applied for the fingerprint credential, and I received a good cause exception there. I am happy to answer any questions that you have, though.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Board members, questions?
Mr. Lopez, the concern in question that happened in 2014, was that an isolated incident, or was that a pattern of obtaining other people's identities? And what purpose did you use that for?
It was a single isolated incident. In the end, I pled down to the class 1 undesignated offense that was later set aside and eligible for having the record sealed. It was a single incident involving a personal matter with somebody I was involved with romantically at the time. And things ended poorly. And I just taking the advice of my legal counsel without any. I don't know how much detail you want me to get into at this point about this. But it was a single isolated incident. It never happened again. I served my probation, which was terminated early. I was granted a license in Washington after moving in 2016 to work as a pharmacy assistant beginning 2018. I got my technician certification in 2019 and have maintained it these last 6 years. And I'm hoping to look to move back into Arizona. And ideally, I could continue my work in the career I've been working to build for the last 7 years.
Just a quick follow-up, and I don't need a lot of details, but did you take the identity to steal money? Did you take the identity for retribution? I mean, do you have just like a general category of why you did this?
Yes. In the end, it was I pled guilty to taking the identity for the purpose of intending to steal money. I never actually did. It was in the end, it was a question of things that were given as gifts were later reported to the police as items that were stolen, things that were purchased by the significant other that were gifted to me. He later reported as stolen and being purchased on fraudulent credit cards without records of any of those purchases. And having been in that relationship that had ended 2 years prior, I had no evidence to the contrary, besides the physical items that I still owned and had. And that's why I pled down to the undesignated offense.
Thank you for that explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. I believe we have a case that failed to disclose arrest or criminal charge.
If I may, Mr. Al Nassif, I apologize for interrupting. Mr. Lopez was not required to disclose because of the age of the case and the fact that it was expunged. He was not required to disclose. We were knowledgeable of this offense because he previously disclosed it on a former application.
Okay, so his application pending for our approval?
That's correct.
Okay, so I move to approve his application.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in
Yeah,
favor?
just for the record, before we do a formal, I think because he was a minor during this incident, right?
No, because of the age of the offense.
Age of the offense. That's the
Yeah.
time period. That's why we're kind of bypassing and just approving, just for the record.
Thank you.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Lopez, for being here. Board staff will be in touch.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to tab number 19E. This is case trainee registration case. Board staff is Ms. DeLeon and subject is Brianna Whitney. Ms. Whitney, are you on the line?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Hello, my name is Brianna Whitney, and I am a pharmacy technician.
Thank you. Ms. DeLeon, would you like to provide a brief summary, please?
Yes, Brianna Whitney applied for a pharmacy technician trainee registration on June 4th, 2025. She disclosed a single charge of assault and battery. Ms. Whitney held a pharmacy technician license in South Carolina that expired on June 30th, 2025. There are no disciplinary actions on said license. Ms. Whitney submitted a statement that while she was hospitalized, she was charged with assault and battery after striking a police officer with her closed fist. Ms. Whitney pled guilty to assault and battery 3rd degree and was sentenced to either serve 30 days in jail or pay a fine of $465. Ms. Whitney paid the fine in full.
Thank you, Ms. DeLeon. Board members will open the floor for any questions. Discussion. I'll be happy to start. I see you're PTCB certified and you're formally licensed. I'm just curious, Ms. Whitney, why are you applying for a trainee registration when it appears you meet the qualifications for a full technician license?
Yes, sir. And about that, I had previously applied in February. So I had moved from South Carolina to Arizona February of this year. And so I applied as soon as I touched down, landed. And there were issues surrounding my criminal history, and so the application just didn't go anywhere. I reapplied in June, but I reapplied before I passed the PTCB. So that's why I was still training under the status license type trainee, but I really should have I didn't have a response from them, so I didn't know if I should reapply under state certified. So I just left it as training, sir.
So it
That
sounds
makes sense.
it sounds like you need to be applying for a different license type.
Okay, yes, sir, I understand. With that being said, if I did apply to a different license type, I have to re-go through the criminal history and because my thing is I didn't have formal training. I learned through work experience, and resources, and I studied on my own to pass the PTCB. So, and when I called a different state, they said that to get state certified, you have to have formal training. So I'm not sure what all you would like me to do. I guess I'm not sure how it all works.
Ms. Bolts, could you provide some guidance?
So what you could do is you could approve her trainee registration, and then she can apply for a technician license. She'll have to, submit all of the stuff that's required for a technician license, but she'll be able to work as a trainee while that process is in motion, and she'll only be able to perform those trainee duties that are outlined in role. But then once she becomes licensed, or once we get her application for licensure, we should be able to move forward. If you guys have already considered the conduct and there's no new conduct to consider, we should be able to move forward with a technician application.
It just seems like she meets the she's already PTCB certified. Yeah. Does she need to go through an accredited program here to get a full technician license, or is just
No.
PTCB certificate sufficient?
Just this PTCB certificate is sufficient, but she also needs to obtain a fingerprint clearance card for her technician application.
Okay.
So I don't know if she has that. And so she might, take time to get that and do all those things. I don't know.
Thank you, Ms. Bowles.
Do you have a fingerprint clearance card?
I do have one. It just expires next year, so I don't know when the time frame is to renew, but I do currently have one. Yes, sir.
Do you have an Arizona fingerprint clearance card?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
For this state, yes, ma'am.
Was it issued for a different agency?
No, I think just DPS. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
So we would want her to register her fingerprint card for the Arizona Board of Pharmacy, just in case if anything comes up in the future, the board would be notified of that. So she should be able to just update her card with the Department of Public Safety.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure.
Ms. Whitney, when did you get the clearance card?
I had it before the incident. I know that. I don't know how long they're good for, but when I reapplied to get it and repaid to get my license, it said it was valid until next year. So would I have to reapply for a new fingerprint, I guess?
I'm just a little confused. If you had a license in another state, why did you have a fingerprint clearance card for Arizona?
Because I used to live here.
Okay.
So I've moved around a lot, but basically I've lived between Arizona and South Carolina. And I had the pharmacy technician license in South Carolina, and I'm reapplying for a pharmacy technician license here. But I had an Arizona fingerprint clearance card when I previously lived here before all of the pharmacy stuff. Does that make sense?
So the fact they had fingerprint card, we will not know if suspended or not, right? We have to verify this.
We'd be able to see the status of it, but if it became suspended later on for some other reason, then we wouldn't get the letter. It would go to whatever agency she applied with
Okay.
previously.
I mean, she can go this route, but and get the trainee registration, but it seems like you shouldn't go through this hassle and then have to go again for the full technician license when she meets the criteria for the technician.
It will take time. If she applied today, it'll take time. She has a current job pending. It may be wise to just let her proceed this way.
Ms. Whitney, do you have a job pending that you need?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I have not applied for any jobs because I didn't want to, them call me and I can't even get behind the counter, so I don't have a job offer or anything. I had one, but it's, been like 2 months ago.
I mean, knowing that it'll take time, I'm in support of approving if we're good with, she disclosed and we're good with that. I'm okay with proceeding to grant trainee.
Okay. Is that your
I'll make
motion?
that my motion.
All right.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Whitney, for being here. Board staff will
Thank
be
you
in.
so much, you guys.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate it.
Next on the agenda is tab number 19F. This is pharmacist intern license application. Board staff is Ms. Allison Okanowski.
Okanowski, Polish.
And the subject is Ms. Emma Elder. Ms. Elder, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome, Ms. Elder. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Yes, my name is Emma Elder. I'm currently a lead pharmacy technician for CVS and have been so for the last 5 years. And I'm also a first-year pharmacy student at University of Arizona.
Thank you, Ms. Elder. Ms. Okanowski, could you please provide us a summary?
Allison Okanowski, licensing administrator. Emma Elder holds an open pharmacy technician license set to expire October 31st of 2025. She applied for a pharmacist intern license on July 30th, 2025, and failed to disclose charges on her intern application. On September 30th, 2017, Ms. Elder was pulled over in Mesa for a non-working headlight. During the stop, the officer noticed the smell of marijuana coming from the car. Ms. Elder stated she smoked 5 hits off of a joint 4 hours ago. She stated she smokes a small bowl almost nightly before going to bed and did not have a medical marijuana card. Ms. Elder was charged with marijuana possession/use, drug paraphernalia possession/use, DUI impaired to the slightest degree, and DUI drugs or metabolite. She pled guilty to DUI drugs or metabolite, and the other charges were dismissed. In October of 2020, her guilty plea was set aside. The board has considered this charge on her trainee application.
Thank you. Ms. Elder, just curious, on the Zoom screen, it says that you're a PharmD.
No, this is the Zoom account that I use for all of my meetings for school. So they have us put what program we're a part of. So that's why it's in my name. I just didn't think to remove it.
Okay, because it implies to the viewer here that you are a graduate pharmacist.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm part of the PharmD program. So when I do meetings with the med students and the nursing students, we do professionalism meetings every so often, and I have to put that in my name to specify what program I'm in.
Thank you. Board members, any questions?
I believe that happened in 2017, and She's going in the right direction to be a pharmacist. I feel okay to approve her intern license application, and that's my motion.
Second.
But what about our standard
Oh,
non-disciplinary?
sorry, yeah, I didn't address that. And with upon paying $250 for not fail to disclose the arrest and criminal charge.
Modify my second.
All right, so we've got a first and a second for an order for a $250 non-disciplinary civil penalty. First and second, any further discussion?
Am I
Oh,
able to say something on that?
I don't know if there's anything to say. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Um, I just wanted to say that I honestly wasn't aware that I was supposed to disclose that based on advice I had been given. You know, this all happened when I was 18, so when all of the legal stuff is explained to me, I didn't really understand a lot of it. And when it came around for me to apply for my intern license, I did reach out to um uh the Superior Court. I reached out to Gilbert PD. I was trying to figure out what exactly my status was for those charges and if I had to disclose those. And they couldn't find charges anywhere for me in the system. I called the Superior Court multiple times and they kind of told me, we don't have anything for you. We don't know what to tell you. I called Gilbert PD. They advised me that it looked like in their system that the arresting officer had put those charges on the incident report, but they had never actually gotten filed because they didn't see an active case for me anywhere. I had even spoken to some police officers outside of the Superior Court when I was just, trying to get information, and they told me that after 7 years, if they don't charge you with those charges, like if they don't actually bring you into court for those charges, that they just kind of disappear from the system. That was my understanding of it. So I honestly, being told that from the Superior Court that there was no case for me, I didn't know that that was going to pop up anywhere or that I needed to disclose that information. If I had known that, I would have, because obviously I know if it exists, you guys are going to find it anyway. So there's no point in me, hiding that information. I just was following the advice that I was given.
Thank you, Ms. Elder.
I believe the question is clear, not about if you charge. It says if have you been arrested, charged, pled guilty. They give you exactly what do you need to disclose. And this is our standard. It's non-disciplinary, nothing, just it's a fine. I know sometimes it's hard to come up with the money. We totally understand that, but it's standard and our rules. So it's very pretty standard here.
He
So
was charged and pled guilty. I think the folks he probably needed to call was the Board of Pharmacy.
yeah,
and-
exactly.
and
That's
get
what I want to say.
clarification on if she
Yeah.
could report or not, right?
Yeah.
And,
And if I could give you a brief word of advice for the future, you obviously expended a lot of energy to try to answer this question. In the future, my advice would be just disclose it. It's better to be transparent and disclose it. It saves a lot of time and effort for everyone involved.
Correct.
Okay,
because
thank you.
We don't want to see you in 3 to 4 years when you're, when you've finished pharmacy school and you didn't disclose. So we have a first and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
To clarify, that would be to grant the application upon payment of the.
Upon $250. Yeah.
Correct. Thank you, Ms. Elder. Board staff will be in touch.
Thank you.
Moving on to 19G. This is tab, 19G, pharmacy technician license application for Soshi Yarlin Calles Castillo. Is Ms. Calles Castillo on the line?
Hello?
Hi, Ms. Castillo.
Hey.
Hi, could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Hi, my name is Sochi Calles Castillo.
Hi, welcome. Ms. Okanowski, could you provide us a brief summary, please?
Soti Yaralin Calles Castillo held a pharmacy technician trainee license with the Arizona State Board of Pharmacy that expired August 31st of 2025. She applied for a pharmacy technician license on August 18th, 2025, and failed to disclose charges on her application. Ms. Castillo disclosed a charge for prescription-only drug possession on her trainee application. On December 18th, 2018, an officer was called to a high school regarding a student possessing drugs. Ms. Castillo was stopped after school staff smelled marijuana on her. School staff conducted a search of her car and found a small amount of marijuana and a container with 1 1/3 trazodone pills. Ms. Castillo stated the trazodone pills were hers, she did not have a prescription for them, and refused to state how she obtained them. She was charged with 1 count of possession of a prescription-only drug. She pled guilty and paid a fine of $1,000, with the case closed on March 24th, 2022, after the last payment was received.
Thank you, board members. Any questions?
So it's similar to the previous case in the sense that it was disclosed previously, but not currently.
Correct. Any questions from Ms. Calles Castillo?
I move we approve with a $250 fine.
All right, we've got a first. Do we have a second?
Yeah, and my second will add that we approve it after the fine is paid.
Yes, that's,
Just to keep Ms. Galvin from having to say
All right, we've got a first and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Calles Castillo. Board staff will be in touch.
Okay, thank you guys so much for your time.
All right, moving on to tab 19H, pharmacy technician license application for Ms. Nina Thomas. Is Ms. Thomas available and on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Ms. Thomas. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Hi there, my name is Nina Thomas, pharmacy technician, Colorado.
Welcome. Ms. Okanowski, could you please provide a summary?
Nina Thomas holds a pharmacy technician license in good standing in Colorado set to expire October 31st of 2025. She applied for a pharmacy technician license on July 26th, 2025 with the Arizona State Board of Pharmacy, in which she disclosed a 2019 DUI. Ms. Thomas failed to disclose charges in 2017 for disturbing the peace and destruction of private property. The Denver County Court was unable to provide court records for the 2017 charges as it was outside the record retention guidelines. However, a Denver police report with a narrative was provided. On March 10th, 2019 at 3 a.m., an officer was dispatched to a downtown Denver intersection for a report of a driver slumped behind the wheel of a car. When the officer arrived, he noticed the car was partially in the intersection, still running and in drive, with Ms. Thomas's foot on the brake. Once awake, Ms. Thomas consented to a blood draw, which revealed a blood alcohol content of 0.193. Ms. Thomas was charged with no insurance driver, parking on the roadway, driving under the influence, and driving under the influence per se. Ms. Thomas pled guilty to driving under the influence, and the rest of the charges were dismissed. She was ordered to complete 1 year of supervised probation, pay fines, and complete community service. Records indicate the case closed on January 18th, 2021.
Thank you. Board members, any questions for Ms. Thomas?
Yeah, I don't know if I have any questions. It seems like it's very similar to what we just
Sure.
heard. So I would move that we accept or approve rather, and upon payment of $250 non-disclosure fine.
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Board staff will be in touch.
Thank you.
All right, looks like right on time. It says after 10 a.m. we can do 19I, and we are after 10 a.m. So let's move forward to 19I.
That's perfect. And Mr. Chair, if I may propose a little relief break after this agenda item, would be appreciated.
Very good, we'll do. This is 19I Pharmacy Technician Trainee application for subject Isaac Vaughn. Is Mr. Vaughn available?
He's on the line, Your Honor.
Okay.
Hello.
He likes that.
Welcome, Mr. Vaughn. Could you
Hello.
please introduce yourself for the record?
Yeah, my name is Isaac Vaughn.
Thank you. And
Brenna Fisher for Isaac Vaughn.
thank you, Ms. Fisher. And Hannah Ms. Bolts is going to prepare or has prepared a summary. Would you like to share that with us, please?
Absolutely. Isaac Vaughn applied for a pharmacy technician trainee registration on April 10th, 2025. It appears that Mr. Vaughn submitted fraudulent documents to his employer indicating that he was issued a pharmacy technician trainee registration on May 29th, 2025. However, board staff never issued a trainee registration to this individual.
Thank you, Ms. Bolts. Could you activate your microphone, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
On September 9th, we submitted a letter to the board. Mr. Vaughn doesn't work in the pharmacy industry anymore. He's moved to the construction industry. He denies the allegations, but he's willing to withdraw his application and stipulate not to apply to the pharmacy board again, if the board would be willing to consider that as a resolution.
Members of the board, Ms. Fisher, would your client agree to the or consent to the denial of the application? Okay. I would suggest that we offer a consent agreement where he would consent to the denial. That would then go on the record versus just allowing him to withdraw his application.
Thank you. I will make that my motion.
Second.
Any further discussion?
We have no objection to the consent as long as it doesn't include an admission or the reasons for the denial.
It will state the findings of the board investigation with a provision that he does not admit or deny to those. But if the matter went proceeded to formal hearing, he understands the board would present evidence to support the allegations.
Thank you. Dr. Gandhi, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Thorwald,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Wamsley is absent. No. Ms. Park,
Aye.
Mr. Hogan,
Aye.
Mr. Al-Nasif.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Braswell, Ms. Browning. Ayes have it with 3 absence, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That concludes this matter. Thank you, Mr. Vaughn, for being here. Thank you, Ms. Fisher, and we will take a 7-minute break, come back at 10:15.
Thank you so much.
I believe he's on Zoom. That's probably him with the HP initials.
Hi, Mr. Pulver. Could you please introduce yourself for the board?
Hi, Howard Bowler. Sorry if there's a delay in my iPad loading up.
Thank you. Could you increase your, okay, we got it. All right. Thank you. And you are represented by an attorney here.
Yes, my name is Luis Lance. I'm an attorney with Corals and Brady, and I represent Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Lance. Ms. Chang, welcome. Would you like to provide us a brief summary and share why we are here today?
Good morning, board members. Nancy Chang, Compliance Officer. At the October 2024 and February 2025 board meetings, the board considered case 240560 and voted to offer Mr. Howard Pulver an interim consent agreement for probation, examination, and continuing education. The interim consent order stated that Mr. Pulver shall take and successfully pass the MPJE within 6 months of the effective date, which was executed on March 14, 2025, thereby requiring him to complete the MPJE exam by September 15, 2025. Mr. Pulver submitted the application for MPJE on August 27, 2025, and was eligible to take the MPJE exam from around September 8 or September 10 last month. As of now, Mr. Pulver hasn't taken the MPJE and the 6-month examination period has passed. Mr. Pulver's legal counsel has just requested the board to grant Mr. Pulver an extension until December 31st of this year to take the MPJE exam. This matter is presented to the board for consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Chang. Mr. Lance, it was Lance?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Lance, would you like to make a statement?
Yes, thank you. So we don't contest anything that the inspector here has said. I will like to note that Mr. Pulver applied to take the MPJE on August 26th, and he did not receive notification that he was eligible to sit for the exam until Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. And so that only left him with 4 days to effectively take the MPJE. So I don't think Howard realized that it would take so long for him to be approved to take the exam. So regrettably, he wasn't able to take it before the September 14th deadline. And I asked him afterwards whether he could take the exam prior to this board meeting. And he shared with me that he has been dealing with some health issues. So we're happy to discuss those in executive session if you'd like. But very broadly, he did undergo surgery at the end of September. And so he's dealing with those health issues currently. So he is scheduled to take the exam December 6th of this year. And we respectfully request an extension for him to comply with the interim consent order.
Thank you, Mr. Lance. Board members, any questions?
I move we grant the extension.
I do have one question. So he signed the consent agreement in March. Huge gap between March and September when he finally reaches out to MPJE to schedule to attempt to take the exam prior to the health condition in September. What was he doing for that 6-month period after he signed the consent agreement between then and September?
He was studying for the exam. So Howard has been a pharmacist since 2006. So it's been some time since, he's had to take an exam like the MPJE. He also is the pharmacist in charge for Happy Valley Pharmacy in Quartzsite. I'm sure the board is well aware. In those 6 months, he's been visited by a pharmacy consultant, Michael Blair, and he's been making sure that his pharmacy is up to standard and operating in compliance with state and federal law. So he's been spending a lot of time at the pharmacy, making sure that it meets the state's requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Lance. We've got a first and a second to approve the request to allow him to complete the exam by the end of the year. Any further discussion? Is that motion in order, Ms. Galvin?
Yes, it is. Do you want to include anything that if he fails to comply and take and pass the exam on the 6th of December, perhaps the matter would be moved to formal hearing for violation of the order?
That's sounds, I think we've been waiting long enough. I think that is
That would be-
appropriate.
I would modify my motion for that.
Yeah, I second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Lance. Thank you, Mr. Pulver. Good luck on taking the
Thank you.
MPG on December 6th.
Thank you.
All right, we are now moving to tab 20F. This is complaint number 25-0321. The subject is Karen Jane Rennie, pharmacist. Is Ms. Rennie present? Hi, Ms. Rennie. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Hi, my name is Karen Rennie.
Thank you, Ms. Rennie. And Ms. Brown, would you like to share a summary?
Jenica Brown, Executive Assistant to the Deputy Director. Karen Rennie was issued an Arizona pharmacist license on August 5th, 2014. Her license expires on October 31st, 2026. It is currently suspended. On June 12th, 2025, the board office received a notification regarding Ms. Rennie, which is contained in the board's files, and contains information concerning her ability to safely practice pharmacy. On June 16th, 2025, staff sent Ms. Rennie a notice of complaint and subpoena for records. Ms. Rennie responded to the complaint and supplied all requested documentation. The documentation provided contains confidential health information and is included in the board's files for review and consideration. On July 3rd, 2025, Ms. Rennie entered into an interim consent agreement for suspension of license, psychological evaluation, and fitness for duty evaluation. The board considered and approved the agreement during the August 2025 board meeting, and it was executed on August 26, 2025. Ms. Rennie complied with the interim consent agreement and underwent an evaluation on September 12, 2025. The results of the evaluation are included in the board's files for review and consideration. This matter is before the board for discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the facts of the complaint, the results of the evaluation, and the status of Ms. Rennie's license.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Ms. Rennie, would you like to make a statement before we move into questions? And we may need to move, if there's any protected health information in your statement, let's keep that for an executive session.
Sure. I graduated from Midwestern in 2014, and I have been practicing pharmacy for the past 10 years. And I have struggled with my health a little bit, but I have been, over the past 8.5 years, I had been working at Walgreens with no issue. I have a passion for helping people with my pharmacy license, and I would like to respectfully request that I get my license back.
Thank you, Ms. Rennie. Board members? The floor is open for discussion and questions.
So the license is suspended at this time, right? So I wonder if we can get her license back, like under probation. I believe this is, to me, this appropriate way to do. At least she can get back and practice again and under probation and then on supervision of PIC or someone else.
And would that be under the conditions of the evaluation?
Yeah, I mean, of course, that would be under the condition of evaluation.
I'll second that.
Do we need to be more specific on probation?
Yes, so what I am hearing is that you are going to make a motion that would lift the suspension of her license.
Yeah.
Immediately placing the license on probation.
Yeah.
Consistent with the terms
Of the-
suggested by the evaluator.
Yes, that's my motion. Is that sufficient for?
It is, if, do you want to include anything in the event that the respondent does not sign the consent agreement?
Oh, yeah, if not sign the consent agreement, we move for hearing.
What was that? I'm sorry.
If you don't sign the agreement to
Oh.
lift your suspension and be under probation, we will move for hearing.
Understood.
Yeah,
Understood.
okay.
I have a question. How long's the probation?
I mean, usually 2 years, right, the standard, or
I need s-
depend on the doctor recommendation.
I'm trying to get back to that.
But
3823.
Yeah, 3823 is done. I read,
I don't see a duration.
Anyway, when we need to remove probation, they need to come back before the board, right? And then we need to look at doctor's notes or recommendation from evaluator. Is that right? I mean,
Mr. Chair, if I may, guys, I
Yeah,
think we
please.
should remember to push the button and kind of speak up so that it projects to the back of the room. They may be having a hard time.
so I believe in any case that when we remove probation, they have to come before the board. And we look at doctor's evaluation and notes anyway.
And
So do we need to set up a time, like 2 years or 3 years?
there is an evaluation, a recommendation by the evaluator for a reevaluation in May of 2026.
Okay,
So that would suggest that the probation would continue or be in effect until after that evaluation is conducted and the results are provided to the board. So we could say for, a minimum of 1 year.
okay.
But understand that it could be released early if, depending on.
Depend on the
results of
doctor's note. Okay, I include this in my motion. All right. Okay.
I'll amend my second.
Any further discussion? Dr. Gandhi, I think we're ready for roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Thorwald,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Spark,
aye.
Mr. Hogan,
Aye.
Mr. Al-Nassif,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Mr. Braswell, Ms. Browning, Ms. Walmsley. Ayes have it, 3 absent, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Gandhi.
Congratulations.
And thank you, Ms. Rennie, and board staff will be in touch with you with your agreement. Thank you. We will move back to tab 20G. This is action on previous action. Subject is, sorry if I butcher this, Yarisamar Navahar, technician trainee, board case number 24-0532. Is the subject on the line?
Yes, I am here.
Hi, Ms. Navahar. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Hi, my name is Yurisamar Navahar.
Welcome. Ms. Brown, would you like to share a summary, please?
Certainly. Jenica Brown, Executive Assistant to the Deputy Director. Yari Samar Navahar was issued an Arizona Pharmacy Technician Trainee registration on July 25th, 2023. Her registration expires on July 31st, 2026. It is currently open and on probation.
Ms. Navahar entered into a consent agreement for probation and civil penalty as a result of a complaint that was submitted to the board office in September of 2024, notifying the board that she was terminated for theft of non-pharmacy merchandise. The consent agreement was executed on March 31st, 2025. It contains a provision that requires Ms. Navahar to appear before the board if she does not obtain employment as a pharmacy technician trainee within 6 months of the effective date of the agreement. On September 26, 2025, Ms. Navahar contacted staff and indicated that she has been unable to obtain employment by the deadline in her consent agreement. She further stated that she applied for a job at multiple pharmacies and either never received a call back or the pharmacy was not hiring. She stated that she lives in a small town and does not have many more options. This matter is before the board for discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding Ms. Navajar's failure to obtain employment as a pharmacy technician trainee within 6 months of the effective date of her consent agreement.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. We'll open the floor for discussion and questions.
Ms. Navahar, is it your intent to continue to try to find employment?
Yes, I do plan on trying. There is a few more pharmacies here in town that I still haven't applied for, but I do wish to seek for an employment.
Do you have employment now?
No, I'm not working right now.
Ms. Navahar, I know that the trainee registration enables you to work in a pharmacy. I'm curious, are there outside training programs through the community college or any sort of vocational schools where you can also seek training?
I actually haven't looked into that. I didn't know that was something that was a choice, but that's something I can look into. We do have MCC here, so I can ask them.
Yeah, because the trainee permit allows you to go through a work accredited training program, but then there are external training programs available that you may be able to register through and get the didactic education and and they'll help you get an externship in a community and hospital practice. So it's a pathway that you could explore.
Okay, thank you for that.
Board members, any other questions or a motion?
How long? Another 6 months? Yeah, it was 6 months. I move to extend the technician trainee certificate for an additional 6 months to allow the applicant to receive training or to go through another avenue.
I believe that a more appropriate motion would be to extend or alter the consent agreement, amend the consent agreement to allow her an additional 6 months to continue the probation and find pharmacy employment or report back to the board.
Can we add instead of employment or training program? Not only so we give her more options.
Do you need a registration for a employment training?
No, that's just,
No, you
no,
don't.
let's leave that as a.
But give her more options because she said she has hard time to
Mhm.
find a job in her town.
So these externship programs do require them to have, practical experiential
requirements.
hours
Okay.
in a licensed pharmacy.
Okay, so an extension of 6 months to find employment or enter into an employment training program.
I'll modify my motion in that regard.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for being here, Ms. Navahar.
Thank you for your time.
All right, moving on to conferences and 21C. This is complaint number 25-0250, respondent CVS 8365, pharmacist Alyssa Turos, and pharmacy technician Ellie Berry. Are the parties available? And see Mr. Convery here for CVS. Good morning. Hi, Ms. Touros. Could you please introduce yourself for the record?
Hi, I'm Alyssa Touros.
Hi, Ms. Touros. Do you know if Ms. Berry will be joining us?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know when I spoke to the district leader a week or so ago, I know we only discussed Ms. Touros coming. I'm not sure of Ms. Berry's status.
Okay.
Apologize.
All right. Mr. Jacobson, would you like to share a summary?
Good morning. Mac Jacobson, Compliance Officer, Arizona Board of Pharmacy. This complaint revolves around one patient with two prescriptions. One historic prescription that had been stored on the patient's profile for quite some time. The other prescription was received by the pharmacy when the incident happened. The prescriptions were both written for the same medication with the same directions. So ciprofloxacin, 1 tablet twice a day. The historic prescription was for a quantity of 28 tablets with provider A. The new prescription was for 6 tablets, provider B. So different providers, different day supply, different quantity of tablets, but the same medication and the same directions of use. So the way I understand it happened was the pharmacy receives the new prescription, the technician data enters the new prescription, and the computer system recognizes that there's a historic prescription stored on the patient's profile that matches the data that has just been entered. There's a pop-up from the computer system that alerts the user at that point that, hey, there's a stored prescription, a historic prescription's on the patient profile. Would you like to fill the older prescription first and put the new prescription on hold? It was unclear through my investigation who received that pop-up notice and who approved that pop-up notice. But what appears to happen is that pop-up notice was accepted, the historic prescription was filled, and the patient was expecting 6 tablets and received 28 tablets from the historic prescription.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobson. Mr. Convery, would you like to make a statement?
Very briefly, which is unusual for me. Mr. Jacobson did a very thorough description of what did occur. What is different today, what Mr. Jacobson said, and this is what I was prepared to address, what he said last time, and what was said at the Complaint Review Committee, is that he said last time the system prioritizes the old or prescription. He did not say that today. Today, it's correct. The system does not prioritize the older prescription. I wanted to make that very clear for the board, and that was going to be one of my key points. But other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
All right, board, do you have any questions?
At what point does the, I guess, alert happen, the prompt? Is it at the point where the pharmacist is making that decision, or is it?
It is at the point of when the prescription first comes in at triage.
Okay, so like data entry.
So data entry, yeah. In this situation, and I know Ms. Touros can speak to that, we've gone back and forth, but the data shows that actually she performed the data entry. That doesn't necessarily mean that a pharmacist will perform it every time. I believe normally it is a tech. But it shows up at the data entry point. It's not an alert. You use the term alert. I want to be very clear. It's not, alert makes it seem like something blasts up and it's blinking and then there's warning lights and sirens. It's not.
Like a prompt.
It's a prompt that shows up that tells you that there is 2 prescriptions, an older one and a newer one. And then the functionality at the bottom just asks you, which one would you like to fill? And in this situation, I believe you hit enter to fill the older one.
Board members, if I may, on page 3960 of your board book is a listing of tasks that were performed during the dispensing process of this prescription. And you can see that I've highlighted the data entry portions and whose names are attached to those portions.
So Ms. Touros, just a question. Do you see the quantity dispensed? So when it gives you the option of, in this scenario, the ciprofloxacin BID for 28 for 14 days or for 3 days, is that face up to you as the verifier determining, am I going to give old prescription or am I going to give new prescription?
No, in verification, you're only seeing the prescription that got sent through that is in the process of being filled. So that being the older prescription that I verified, in the verification step, you aren't seeing that there was another prescription sent in.
So, Mr. Convery, my question for CVS is, if it's not an exact match, why is that presented to the pharmacist or the technician? It looks like it could be as an option to select if it's not an exact match.
What she was just describing was what she sees on the verification, not at the data entry. At the data entry, you do see the difference in prescriptions, but the way our logic works is it pulls up the drug, the total daily dose, which here was identical, DAW, and the SIG code. So when it's a different doctor or a different day's supply, whoever's doing the data entry will see that it's different, but the system recognizes those first 4 things before it shows something different. But it does show them on data entry that, hey, this is the old one, this is the new one. Which one do you want to fill? And that would indicate the different days supply, excuse me.
Can I make a comment on that as well in the data entry? It
Please.
doesn't really ask you which one you want to fill. What it does is when you normally get to the bottom of a prescription to push it through, you hit enter, and that's how you push it through. When these pop-ups do come up, you hit enter, it automatically fills the older one. And it doesn't really tell you like, this is the day's supply of the older one or anything like that. It's just if you hit enter like you normally would to push it through, it's going to go through. You would have to type FN to push the new one through instead.
And that's the functionality. You enter will fill the older one, but if you hit S, again, as she said, S or space, S is to fill the new prescription on hold. They place the new one on hold and link it, or fill the new prescription. You just hit something different. You hit space as opposed to enter.
Right, but in a normal prescription where the system isn't linking it to another prescription, you hit enter to push it through. So it's kind of a reverse of, like if you enter on a regular prescription, like an antibiotic that you would expect to be going straight through and not linking to an older one, you're going to hit enter to push it through. However, if the system for some reason decided to link an antibiotic to an older prescription and you hit enter, it's going to push the old prescription through. So it's just functionality for 2 different situations, but it's if you're hitting enter without it being linked, you're pushing the new prescription through. If you're hitting enter when it is being linked, you're putting the new one on hold.
Ms. Torres, has this been escalated as a concern in the past?
I haven't seen it with antibiotics. I was under the assumption with CVS that it was with maintenance medications and that they wouldn't do it with an acute prescription. So no, most patients do prefer that their older prescriptions get filled first, but I do think that it's an issue that they're linking antibiotics.
Totally agree. So what classes of drugs are included in this logic that's designed behind the scenes?
Well, so she's talking about linking, and linking is something a little bit different. We do link mostly maintenance medications. Cipro is not part of our linking program. This is not necessarily a linking program. All this is doing is recognizing an older prescription in the system, but it's not linking them. So there's a little bit of difference in terms we're using. So when we link our prescriptions, that will be maintenance medications. That's something different.
So
Cipro is not part of our proactive linking program.
Okay, but when you're linking a maintenance medication, it's the same exact steps. So like if a maintenance medication recognizes an older one, you're going to get the same exact prompt.
Right.
And you are trained, you are very familiar with like enter will take you to the old one, and whatever keyword you press will select the new one. So all pharmacists, I'm assuming at CVS, are aware of this. Is that right? Or is it something like a new thing?
I don't think it's new, but I think that because it hasn't really caused issues, I would bet that there are a lot of people who don't realize that you have to type FN to fill the new prescription. Honestly, until this came up, I had never seen it with an antibiotic. It wouldn't be something that I would think about if I'm typing a prescription. The way you normally get it to go through is enter. That would be what I would assume would be the step to push the prescription through for an antibiotic.
It's an unusual situation.
And that's what I believe led our compliance officer to see it. like force staff to do because there's confusion there. Right? So that's
So,
what's
Ms.
happening.
Thoreau, so clinically, you're the pharmacist, you're the one who went to pharmacy school, you're the one who's assessing the appropriateness of this antibiotic, and you, when you're doing the data entry and you see, quantity of 6, it's not, it's a surgical prophylaxis or some sort of, different sort of indication than a 14-day indications. But at what point in time is that sort of decision-making happening to, for the pharmacist to recognize that the day supply is different, the indication's different, perhaps I shouldn't be dispensing the old one. How is that face up to you?
So if I'm the one entering it in data entry, there's no reason that I would intentionally choose to fill an older antibiotic. I think that is just, obviously, yes, if you have the pop-up prompt and you are able to type FN instead of hitting enter, assuming it's going to go through, that's where you should be doing that. But I don't think that there's any reason that an antibiotic prescription should automatically link to, or not link, I guess, but fill an older one. I think that's a system issue. I think that's something that should not be happening in the CVS computer systems. In verification, when you're looking at that, you're not seeing the 2 different prescriptions. You're only seeing 1 prescription. So what you're doing is you're making sure that dosing seems correct, that interactions with other medications. Yes, the date written is older, but very often we do see antibiotics come across, get put on hold for a future date, and then even ones with refills that patients then initiate. So that wouldn't be a huge flag for me to see an older date on an antibiotic.
Thank you for sharing that. So what sort of process improvements is CVS looking at for antibiotics in particular?
Truthfully, this is an unusual situation. This is the first time with the people I've spoken with on the internal teams. This is the first time they've really seen something like this. So I can bring the board's concerns back. What she said with regards to it's opposite on what you hit in the 2 different situations. That's the first I'm hearing of that. I'd be happy to bring that back to the internal teams to see if they can reverse that or engineer a fix for that.
No, I greatly appreciate that. I think system design is very important for patient safety. I think we need to work to set up our pharmacists for success. And I think we should memorialize that so that there is some record that we have. We do have that direction for your company to assess that with antibiotics in particular. Any other thoughts?
So along that line of thinking, it would be my inclination to dismiss the pharmacist and the tech. So I'd like to make that motion, and then maybe if somebody else wanted to make the other motion that you talked about. So I move to dismiss the complaint against the technician and the pharmacist.
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so now we'll open discussion on what we should do with the permit.
I mean, there is no violation from the permit because, I mean, it's technology, right? Like, there is no standard for rules or law to say you should have this sort of technology. Do we recognize they need to improve the technology? Because as we discussed yesterday, pharmacy staff rely on technology for safety. And I feel as a board member, I'm obligated to protect our public also if we identify some gap. But I don't see violation there because, and they're already aware of the issue, and I'm sure like they need to work on it, and they will. I don't know if we can do anything like letter of concern. I'm not sure if that will help, but it's my
Yeah,
perspective.
I agree, Tarek. I think it's, it's, there's prompts and things like that that help to kind of stop and assess. And I think companies, probably look for ways to enhance, but I don't see a violation necessarily. I think they've got, they've heard what we're saying today, as to take back and assess to make it easier for their pharmacists and technicians to make good decisions about which prescription to work on. And it sounds to me like there's knowledge of how the system works. I mean, she was able to describe exactly, even though there's a recommendation to make it better. I mean, I say at the most, it would be a letter of concern if we want to memorialize it that way. But I would also consider dismiss.
If I may, those are options. And if you decide to offer a motion to dismiss, you could direct staff to include in that motion to dismiss just a resuscitation of your representations that he's going to take the concerns back to the internal teams to be addressed and considered, and at least it's memorialized in the file that there was this discussion and there were representations that CVS is going to look into it and see if it can be improved.
Part of what I do is always bringing concerns of any board I appear in front of back to my partners internally. I'm always happy to do that.
So yesterday we had a case similar, not exactly the same of this. This is antibiotic, not maintenance med. And this is data entry was involved there. We don't know how, I mean, this is a little bit difference between two cases. And what I would say, I don't know if letter of concern will assist or help. We have the lawyer, the company lawyer here, and I'm sure he will bring this to the leadership there to improve the system. But I mean, in the future, hopefully we'll not see any more similar cases, and then we can address it in a different way.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Mr. Convery, just trying to understand the process of when you talking about the linking process that you have. You have an old prescription, you have a new prescription. Trying to understand the logic of why is it easier to push the old prescription through versus the new one?
You use the term easier. It's just a question of either you hit enter or you hit space. So when you say easier, they're equally easy or they're equally difficult depending on how you look at that.
I think a lot of times, I think in the mindset of moving something forward, enter is usually the most.
And that's what she
easy.
said.
Yeah.
And again, today was the first time I'm hearing someone say, oh, on one you hit enter, on one you hit space. It seems counterintuitive. And that's what I'm looking to bring back to the internal IT partners and the owners of the two different teams, that the linking program, our RX Connect system, entirely different teams.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I want to make sure the two teams are working in conjunction to do the same thing. It might just be a question of when this team designed this program and this team designed this program, this team said, oh, space. And this team said, oh, enter. I just don't know that.
Can I do a follow-up question, Mr. Chair?
Certainly.
So this is done at data entry, and the person entering it usually sees the two prescriptions. Is that pushed to the pharmacist queue, or
No.
what's the process?
The two prescriptions?
Yeah.
Is
so
not.
You have the old one, you have the new one.
Correct.
Done at data. In most cases, data entry is done by a technician.
Correct.
So they'll see it. And then is it their job to determine to fill the old or new?
It is their job to to look at that and see which one to fill.
So then once it passes that, the pharmacist has no part to play.
And that's what Ms. Turro said. She only
Yeah.
sees on the verification, she only sees what is being filled, the one that is being filled.
So
That's
in
a
many
design
cases
flaw.
that we may see, it's out of the pharmacist.
So the technician who making decision which prescription should be filled, not the pharmacist.
Is that a clinical decision?
It is a clinical decision
Correct.
to me. Okay, so I move to letter of concern about the system regarding what's it like workflow process.
I think they'll be able to articulate that in the, Ms. Galvin, do you need more than that? You understand?
I will work with staff to ensure that the language is appropriate.
Very good. Thank you. I will second that. Any further discussion?
I have a question. So it's a letter of concern. Is that disciplinary, non-disciplinary?
No, it's not. Sorry, it's just for like documentation in case we have similar cases. The only concern here for me that who's making the decision, which one is the technician, not the pharmacist, and that's what I like. CVS recognize that we're not discussing technology here at all. They can use whatever technology they want. Just we make sure the pharmacist is part of the decision. We had exactly similar case yesterday from CVS, and this is to me, moved to dismiss because it was totally different thing. Like it was something like we don't know how all prescriptions filled. Maybe the patients requested the IVR, we didn't know. But the technician did not make a decision on this from yesterday. But this one, obviously, to me, the technician who chose to fill the old one.
Not correct. In this situation, the pharmacist chose. Normally, it is a technician.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say normally.
Yeah.
In this situation, it was the pharmacist. The records show the pharmacist made that decision.
Correct. But we can't get to the point the technician will make a decision, right? I mean, not in this case, maybe, but we just need to improve this area. That always has to be a pharmacist decision. So, and this is because it's, to me, is a clinical, and it is not just to me, it is a clinical decision, which one to.
If that is the board's decision with a letter of concern, I cannot sit here and say that I will necessarily agree with it. I will take it under advisement and consideration, but again, I
Thank
will
you.
bring it back to my
Yeah.
partners,
Thank
my
you.
internal business partners.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you all.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Walmsley's online. She can step.
Mr. Almacy, if I just make a point, I am a company lawyer, not the company lawyer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome, Ms. Walmsley. I'll hand it over to you, and we are set for 23D.
All right, terrific. Thank you. I apologize for my absence this morning, and I'm glad I have the opportunity to join in the discussion. So 23D is a special request for Mark Campbell. Is Mr. Campbell present?
Ms. Walmsley, Mr. Campbell informed staff in August that he would not be available to attend today's meeting due to a backpacking trip. Staff asked him if he wished to postpone his request to the December meeting so that he could answer questions from the board, but he indicated, and I quote, that he feels strongly that the board can consider his proposal without his presence at the meeting in October.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Brown, if you could give us a summary, please.
Certainly. Jenica Brown, Executive Assistant to the Deputy Director. Mark Campbell was issued an Arizona pharmacist license on June 2nd, 1978. His license expires on October 31st, 2026. It is currently open. On or about October 9th, 2024, Mr. Campbell applied for renewal of his pharmacist license, certifying that he complied with the continuing education requirements set forth in statute and rule. In doing so, he was attesting that he had completed the required 30 continuing education hours during the 2-year period preceding his renewal. On or about May 21st, 2025, board staff conducted a continuing education audit that included Mr. Campbell. Prior to reaching out to him, staff reviewed the CPE monitor and discovered that he had not completed any of the required 30 hours of continuing education during the audit time period. Staff emailed Mr. Campbell on or about May 21st, 2025, asking that he provide additional information showing completion of the required CE. On June 3rd, 2025, Mr. Campbell replied and indicated that he is retired as of February 2025, and he splits his time between California and Idaho. He stated that he was residing in Idaho and his CE documentation was in California. He further indicated that he would not be returning to California until October. Mr. Campbell stated that he would not be able to meet the deadline for submitting his continuing education records. As of today, Mr. Campbell has not provided any documentation to demonstrate that any CE was completed. Staff opened a complaint against Mr. Campbell's license for failure to complete the required CE and sent him a proposed consent agreement for civil penalty, continuing education, and audit on July 9th, 2025. Mr. Campbell responded to the proposed agreement on July 30th, 2025, contesting the terms of the agreement. He indicated that he has held an Arizona license for 47 years, has not practiced as a pharmacist in the state of Arizona since December 1982, and has never used his license to reciprocate and obtain a pharmacist license in another state. His proposed terms are as follows: remove the monetary penalty, suspend his license effective immediately, and in order to terminate the suspension, he must submit to an audit of his continuing education for the 2024 to 2026 renewal cycle. Mr. Campbell's response and proposals are included in the board's files for review and consideration.
I think we can handle this one pretty quickly. Here's my thought. This individual obviously lives in two places. His records, he states, are in California. He's in Idaho. He's going back to California in October. Is there any way we could extend to October 31st our requirement for him to supply the records that he's likely going to go to California, pull out of his drawer and send to us? That's at least what I see from the case. I would be open to other opinions. And does any of that ring true or not?
I would have some concerns around the timing, considering he's stated he's on a long-term backpacking trip. I'm not sure of the timeframes around that or whether we'll even be able to get a hold of him this month.
He said in his response that he would be back in October. So if we took that at face value, we would give him to October 31st. Maybe what we could do is say, if he doesn't, we put the consequences. So that's another thought.
I'll just jump in here for a second. So he's asking to suspend his license. Like, it doesn't seem like he even intends to practice in the state. Perhaps we should offer him a consent agreement for a voluntary surrender.
I see it completely differently. I think what he's trying to prove is that he's got the records. Go ahead and suspend it. I'm going to get the records for you and send them back. He was licensed in the late 70s. He hasn't practiced, but he's kept up his license as far as we know. He's done his CE during that whole period. It is familiar to me that's his purpose in recommending suspension. It's to emphasize that he's going to follow through. That's the way I read it.
Mr. Hogan, he did not indicate that to staff. It seemed that he was proposing that we do an audit for the 2024 to 2026 renewal period, which is the upcoming renewal cycle, rather than the past.
Ms. Brown, did you peek at the NABP CPE history on what he, because he may have these certificates, but CE providers generally report to CPE Monitor. So if there is no evidence that it's at CPE Monitor, the certificates that he's going to present, they have to be like Arizona board approved education, that's not through CPE Monitor. And I don't know if we even have those sorts of options for 30 hours for a renewal period. I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. I'll let Nancy Cheng answer that. She did complete the audit.
Good morning, Nancy Chang, Compliance Officer, who did the audit for this continuing education audit. And I did review the NABP record, the CPE Monitor, and I did not find any record for continuing education. So on May 22nd, I sent an email to the licensee and asked for record of not only the 30 hours continuing education required for pharmacists, but also the 3 hours of opioid continuing education. I did not get any response back, so I sent him an email requesting a reminder to him that, I have not heard back, and I would like that these records need to be returned by June 12th, 2025. At that time, he then provided an email response saying that, thank you for the information. And he, in his email, he said, let me catch you up on what is going on with me. And that's where he shared that he lives between San Diego and Idaho, and that he's not planning to be back until October. And I responded back to him to say that, thanks for the update. Unfortunately, we are not able to extend that. I need the record by June 12th as requested. And he never responded back except to say that he had already sent me an email regarding his residence between Idaho and San Diego.
Thank you, Nancy. And to further clarify, we have already offered him a consent agreement to settle this matter. What you have before you today is a special request with alternate terms to that consent agreement. He never indicated that he intended to supply us with documentation of the CE past speaking with Ms. Chang.
So I need to clarify something because it's material to my thought process. So when did he submit his renewal application? And for what time period?
His renewal application was on October 9, 2024. The audit period was from October 9, 2022 to November 1st of 2024.
Okay, and then I see clearly now, thanks, Ms. Brown, that he is then recommending that we audit him for 24 to 26, which would be a cycle that we're not concerned about right now. And so that basically wipes out my thought process. So I'll withdraw that process, and I thank you for your correction.
You're welcome.
And unfortunately, I made it longer than it probably needed to be.
Thoughts, anybody, on how we want to go with this?
So what would the option be to deny the special request and
And
move to?
leave, and we could leave our prior one if we wanted to.
Or open a complaint for non-compliance.
I move we deny and open a complaint for non-compliance.
I'm sorry, he did not sign the consent agreement. So there, that I apologize, that would be an error.
So move to hearing then.
I think probably deny the request, reissue the consent agreement, and does it have terms in it for move to hearing if not signed, Jean?
I don't believe that's a typical provision in the consent agreements for education audits.
Okay. I agree. I think we should deny it.
So I'm looking at the consent agreement. It says if respondent fails to timely comply with this consent agreement and order, the matter shall be referred to formal hearing for the suspension or revocation of license.
So that's a failure to comply, not a failure to sign.
If I may, at the last meeting, we had a similar situation and you allowed her 7 days to sign, and if she didn't, it went to hearing. So we could offer him something similar, but perhaps wait till the end of the month when he's returned, maybe?
Maybe give him till November 15th to sign the consent agreement or refer it to formal hearing.
Or accept a voluntary surrender. So we have some options.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Chris, is that your motion? I'm sorry.
I'll second it.
Do we have a motion and a second? Any discussion? Dr. Gandhi, if you can do roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Thorwald. Aye. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Walmsley.
Aye.
Ms. Spark.
Aye.
Mr. Hogan.
Aye.
Mr. Al-Nassif.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Mr. Braswell. And Ms. Browning. Ayes have it, Madam Chair, with 2 absent.
Thank you, Dr. Gandhi. We'll go to 23E, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the request made by Costco Pharmacy to locate the restrooms in all Costco locations, current and future, beyond the 100-foot walking distance as outlined in Arizona Administrative Code R423-611A4. I see we have Mr. Leong. Can the individuals from Costco please introduce themselves for the record?
Yes, Madam Chair, Christopher Dang from Quarles and Brady, counsel for Costco.
Todd Allers, Regional Pharmacy Supervisor for Costco.
Welcome. Mr. Leong, can you give us a summary, please?
Sure. Thank you, members of the board. On the 5th day of September 2025, legal counsel for Quarles and Brady, Mr. Christopher Dang, representing Costco Pharmacy, submitted a special request. The request seeks board approval to allow the restroom facility location to be beyond the 100-foot walking distance as outlined in Arizona Administrative Code. The request is for current permitted resident facilities and future builds to a common master layout. The master layout includes a restroom located approximately 203-foot walking distance, but estimated 82 feet linear distance point to click. The restroom is located in near proximity to the permitted pharmacy spaces, and there were no concerns noted on prior routine inspections by compliance officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leong. Mr. Dang, would you or your client like to say anything to the board before we go into discussion?
Yeah, I can. I would just note that while the average master plan has a 203 walking distance approximate, there are some layouts that are foreseen that may extend to approximately 200 to 275 feet. Just because if you look at, and I'm not quite sure what the pagination is on your board book, but I believe on the page 5, so the 5th page down from the top of my letter, you'll see the master layout. The next exhibit, excuse me, sorry, would be a blow up of the corner of the store, indicating the linear feet estimation between the pharmacy door and the bathroom. In some cases, if you see the bathroom there, or if you're familiar with yourself from visiting Costco, there is a break room area slightly beyond that, and then another area beyond that where in some layouts the bathroom may occur. So there may be some variation to distance as well, depending on the exact final build out.
Thank you, Mr. Dang. Generally speaking, I am okay with this request, especially based on the locations that are currently existing. Ms. Galvin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we can apply a deviation to future permits. I think that they would have to bring it before us, but being that these are already in existence and our inspectors have been there, I would be in support of approving it for the current locations, but I don't know if it's possible to look at future.
That's correct. It should only be for those in existence in the current permit.
Is it something, I'm sorry, is it something that the board can assign to board staff to evaluate?
To delegate to staff to approve in the
'Cause
future?
Yeah, each deviation is assigned to a particular permit number, right? So as they come in, can we evaluate, and if it lines up with the discussion today, can they assign it to us just to
review? and
review?
assess? Yes,
Assess, and potentially with chair or vice chair's approval, move it forward?
that would be reasonable.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Somewhat uniquely, this provision is housed in Arizona Admin Code R423-611A4. It grants the power to the board or the board's delegation to make that determination. It's not a deviation power, but it's rather kind of rooted in that regulation itself for the authority. So I don't view it necessarily as a traditional deviation waiver, that needs to fit, and apologize that the statutory provision in the waiver, but rather somewhat uniquely, again, it's here within the regulation itself as a power that you can set the standard. I view it potentially in the notes and the minutes of this meeting, granting the power of the board's staff or the board's delegation in terms of the compliance officer team to use their discretion in evaluating the situation as Costco, and perhaps up to a limitation, right? So that, it's not going to be a mile away, but to set the standard and parameters for board staff to review other Costco applications in the future. So we don't have to come back each time.
Thank you, Mr. Dang. Board members, any discussion or thoughts on a motion?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't see any concern. And I'm glad. Are you a lawyer or the lawyer? You are the
I am a lawyer for Costco, not the lawyer
Okay,
for
you
Costco.
are a lawyer for Costco. So I'm glad we have a lawyer from Costco here. So yeah, I mean, I have no problem, and I move to approve the request. And I don't know if you need to delegate, like, make a motion to delegate our board staff to approve.
Yes, you could approve this request, and then with respect to future requests, allow board staff to assess
Says
those
and
requests
approve.
and
Yeah.
consult with the chair. Right.
Okay, and that's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, we had a second.
Ms. Walmsley, just out of curiosity, and this just, has this ever been an issue, the distance between a pharmacy and a bathroom? Why does this rule exist? And is it something that could be?
I'm 100% in agreement with you. I was going to bring it up as a future meeting item, like agenda item, because I think we should look at the rule. I don't know that
It seems like it's
just because the
way-
pharmacists need to use the bathroom has to be close to pharmacy. I believe that's the only reason.
but I think we could change the language in there to make it like
Yeah.
within a reasonable distance or something like that, rather than a specific number of 100. I mean, if it's, 104, that means somebody's going to have to come to us, which I think is really kind of silly.
I agree.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much for your attendance. That takes us to 23F for Raul Burgos Jimenez, intern license extension request.
Hi, I'm Raul Burgos.
Welcome. Do we have a member of staff on this request? Actually, Mr. Burgos, why don't you go ahead and tell us why you're here before us today?
Sure. So I graduated pharmacy school from the U of A 2025, May. I had to repeat my second year, so my intern license expires this May or November 30th, and I just need an extension for one more year because I just took the NAPLEX a month ago, but I didn't pass it, so I'm just looking for an extension so I can take the NAPLEX again.
Thank you, Mr. Burgos. Board members, questions for Mr. Burgos or discussions?
I'm happy to make a motion to approve the special request to extend the intern license for one additional year.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Burgos.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Next up, 23G, Kumail Walji. I apologize if I said that wrong. If you could please correct me on how to pronounce it.
Yes, you said it correctly. It's Kumail Walji.
Welcome. If you could tell us why you're here today.
I'm here because I'd like to be able to take my exam for the NAPLEX. I have passed my MPJE, but I'm also here to renew my license. My license expired on the 30th of September, so I'm not able to continue working, and I also want to apply for my 4th attempt on my NAPLEX exam.
Staff, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we only have the intern license request at this meeting.
That's correct, Madam Chair. He doesn't need to appear before the board for a 4th attempt.
It would just be the 5th.
Yes, that's correct.
Board members, questions or discussion?
We've been approving 1 year, and that was
Mhm.
last time. So I move to approve
Second.
expanding his license to 1 year.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Walji. Yes.
Thank you. I just had a quick question for the NAPLEX. I'm still waiting for a response. Do I continue to wait from the state for a response?
Yes, sir. We'll be in contact with you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Go ahead.
23F, is it 1 year from today or 1 year from the date his license expires?
I believe you agreed from when it expired.
I would agree.
Yeah, when it expired.
When it
That's what-
expires,
yeah.
because it expires November 30th.
So we'll be, starting December 1st.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go to 23H, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding Sophia Jones' request to take the MPJE for the 5th time. Ms. Jones?
Hi, Sophia John.
Good morning. If you could tell us why you're here today.
I'm here to ask for approval for the final attempt on the MPJE.
Thank you. I'll ask you the question that I always ask every applicant that comes before us for this. What are you doing differently to prepare this time? Because this is the last time that the board can grant you.
Yes, I am aware. So unfortunately, I've had some personal difficulties that made it a bit challenging for me to solely focus on my studies, especially more specifically being a caregiver for my dad during his cancer diagnosis. This not only made it physically, but also mentally difficult for me to concentrate during this hard time. Thankfully, now he is on the up and up and getting better. But through this, I had lost track of time a bit. And several months back, my ATT was set to expire for the 4th attempt. So I did not have as much time as I would have ideally liked to study. But however, even so, I showed significant improvement when I'm looking at my score report, bringing areas where it was previously 1s all the way up to 3s. And I took the pre-MPJE beforehand, and that gave me a little bit of confidence going in. I scored an 81, although I ended up falling a little bit short on the real exam. But I think with this being said, if I had a little bit more time for that previous exam and previous attempt, I could have passed. Therefore, if given the opportunity for the final attempt, I know that I now am able to solely focus on my studies, and I know how to approach the exam better just by even looking at my improvement on my score report and the areas I need to focus on more in order to effectively study for this final attempt.
Thank you. Board members, any questions or discussion? Do I have a motion?
I move to approve her request.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think that takes us to discussion of items to be placed on a further meeting agenda. I've already made my comment about, I think we need to look at that square footage requirement. I think that was something we've already kind of broadly discussed in rulemaking, so I don't know if that needs to be put specifically here or if it could be delegated to the rulemaking task force that I think we're going to start up again soon. But is there anything else anybody else would like to call out for a future meeting?
I just like to discuss PIC, like the 10 days requirement, or like to replace or to find PIC. I believe it's appropriate to discuss this and give permit holder or employer time to find the right PIC. We don't want hire somebody just to be compliant with the rules. We need to find a qualified person to be a pharmacy manager. I believe this is like I propose 30 days because I believe the permit holder should be responsible during this time. So hopefully we can add this to next agenda or to changing rules.
Tariq, would you like that to come to the full board for discussion, or should we delegate that to the rulemaking task force?
Whatever faster or easier.
Probably the rule task force would be faster.
So the rule task force, yeah.
Madam Chair, we've done a lot of thought and a lot of work around vaccinations recently, and I'm curious if there's any appetite or an opportunity for us to, this board requires special certification for immunizers. I'm wondering, this has been an evolved and this is immunization is part of pharmacy curriculums nowadays. Is there an opportunity to remove that immunizer certification requirement? I mean, we have medical assistants in offices that go through much less rigorous training than our pharmacists that administer immunizations under supervision of a physician. So I'm just curious if there's an opportunity to remove that immunization certification requirement, if that's a statute thing, or is that something we could potentially look at in rules?
I will support this as well.
I would support that as well. Dr. Gandhi, if we can take a look at that, and if it is rule, perhaps let's kick that to the task force too. Anything else? Dr. Gandhi, anything else we are missing on the agenda other than the call to the public?
I think that's all we have left, Madam Chair.
All right, let's do call to the public.
Good to go, Madam Chair.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for a productive meeting. We will adjourn. Good to see